On Tuesday, March 5, 1963, a Piper Comanche departed Fairfax Municipal Airport in Kansas City, Kansas, around 2 p.m. This is what the airport looked like back then, and this is what it looks like today. You can see the airport is being replaced with industrial buildings. Virginia Patterson Hensley, famously known as Patsy Cline, Lloyd Cowboy Copas, and Harold Hawkshaw Hawkins were the passengers on the Piper Comanche. The pilot was Ramsey Doris Hughes, known as Randy Hughes. Randy Hughes was Patsy Cline's manager and the son-in-law to Cowboy Copas. Their final destination was Nashville, Tennessee, 473 miles southeast of Fairfax Airport here in Kansas City. Right over here. The aircraft was operating as an unscheduled cross-country passenger flight under visual flight rules, and the Piper Comanche had a cruising speed of 180 miles per hour, which is about 300 kilometers per hour. In their first leg, they flew 192 miles from Fairfax Municipal Airport to Rogers Municipal Airport in Arkansas to fuel up. Right here. 15 minutes later, they departed from Rogers Municipal Airport and headed for Dyersburg Regional Airport, 264 miles away. Right over here. Pilot Randy Hughes made contact with Dyersburg Regional Airport in Tennessee and landed at 5:05 p.m. All passengers exited the aircraft, and Randy Hughes requested a weather briefing for the last leg of the flight to their final destination in Nashville, Tennessee, 141 miles away. Over here. A Federal Aviation Administration employee informed him that local conditions were marginal for visual flight rules, and weather at the destination airport in Nashville was below visual flight rule minimums. At some point, Hughes called his wife back home in Nashville, and she said the sun was shining. Hughes then asked if the Dyersburg runways were lit at night in case he had to return due to bad weather. He was informed the runways do have lights. Hughes said he would fly east towards the Tennessee River, right here, and navigate to Nashville from there because he was familiar with the terrain in the area. He then said he was going to attempt the flight and would return back to Dyersburg if the weather conditions worsened. After refueling, all 4 individuals reboarded the airplane. Hughes requested another weather briefing by radio, then taxied into position and took off at 6:07 p.m. No further radio contact was made with the aircraft. On this day, the sun set at 5:50 p.m. When they took off 17 minutes later, it was getting dark. The weather report gave a ceiling of 500 feet with 5 miles visibility. It was cloudy, there was gusty turbulent wind from the west at 20 miles per hour, and the temperature was 43 degrees Fahrenheit. 22 minutes later, an eyewitness with flying experience about 4 miles west of Camden approximately here, heard a low-flying aircraft on a northerly heading. The noise of the engine grew louder, and a few seconds later he saw a light on the aircraft appear out of the overcast clouds in a dive at about a 45-degree angle. At 6:29 p.m., the aircraft crashed into a wooded, swampy area. The witness described hearing a dull-sounding crash, followed by silence. After the witness called the Tennessee Highway Patrol, 2 law enforcement officers searched the area around 7 p.m., but they found nothing. By 11:30 p.m., a search party was organized. It included the Highway Patrol, Civil Defense, and local officers. They searched throughout the night. At 6:10 a.m. on March 6th, the wreckage was discovered right here. A 3-foot hole indicated the area of initial impact, and debris was scattered over an area 166 feet long and 130 feet wide. All 4 occupants were killed instantly. This crash site is 70 miles east of Dyersburg Regional Airport they had just taken off from, and they were about 71 miles from their final destination. The country music world was feeling it the hardest, with headlines like 3 were headliners, Opry hit hardest by fatal air crash. With the deaths of Patsy Cline, Cowboy Copas, Hawkshaw, Hawkins, and Randy Hughes, the entertainment world suffers a great professional loss, and Tennessee suffers a great personal loss. The wreckage showed that the engine was developing substantial power at the initial impact with the trees. The FAA's investigation said the aircraft's propeller contacted a tree 30 feet above the ground while the aircraft was in a 26-degree nose-down attitude. This would suggest that after seeing the terrain, the pilot gave it full power and tried pulling up from the 45-degree nosedive the eyewitness saw the aircraft in, but it was too late. After striking the first tree, the right wing then collided with another tree 32 feet to the right, causing the aircraft to flip over and impact the ground nose first, upside down, at an angle of about 45 degrees. Investigators believe that Hughes entered an area of deteriorating weather with low visibility and lost his visual reference with the ground. This induced spatial disorientation and eventually led to a graveyard spiral, with the aircraft entering into a right-hand diving turn with a nose-down attitude. Investigators estimated the aircraft impacted the ground at 175 miles per hour, which is about 282 kilometers per hour, and about 62 feet beyond the initial contact point with the trees. Also, the airplane was determined to be slightly over maximum gross weight when it departed Dyersburg Airport, but this fact had no bearing on the crash. On the aircraft accident report under Weather and General Conditions at Time of Accident, it shows ceiling of 500 feet, which means the bottom of the clouds were 500 feet above the ground. Visibility was 5 miles. The temperature was 43 degrees Fahrenheit or 6 degrees Celsius. The wind was blowing at 20 miles an hour from the west to the east, which means they had a tailwind helping to push them along, and the elevation of the ground was 475 feet above sea level. The weather was gusty, turbulent, and there were clouds. The report also points out the pilot was not qualified to fly in those conditions, where it says pilot time in this make and model, last 90 days, 44 hours, 25 minutes, total 117 hours. Where it says instrument pilot time, last 90 days, none, total 3 hours, 5 minutes. Where it says night pilot time, last 90 days, 3 hours, 15 minutes, total 3 hours, 15 minutes. Where it says total pilot time, last 90 days, 44 hours, 25 minutes, which suggests in the last 90 days he had only flown his Piper Comanche. And total pilot time, 160 hours, 10 minutes. In today's standards, you need a total of 125 hours, and 40 of those hours must be with an instrument-rated flight instructor. Unfortunately, Randy Hughes was not close to today's standards. The official investigation said, non-instrument pilot attempted visual flight in adverse weather conditions resulting in a loss of control. It's basically poor judgment on the pilot for initiating flight in those conditions when he was not instrument rated. It said, the owner and pilot of the aircraft, Ramsey Randy Doris Hughes, 34, held a valid private certificate and was not rated to fly under instrument flight rules. He was informed that the route was unfavorable and that the weather at the destination was below VFR minimums. After receiving the weather briefing, the pilot talked with his wife in Nashville by telephone, and she informed him that the sun was shining in Nashville. The pilot then indicated his intention to continue the flight and would return to Dyersburg Regional Airport if he found it necessary. The FAA's final conclusion was the non-instrument rated pilot attempted visual flight in adverse weather conditions, resulting in disorientation and subsequent loss of control. So there you have it, a brief explanation of the airplane crash that took the lives of Patsy Cline, Cowboy Copas, Hawkshaw Hawkins, and Randy Hughes, right here on the Forrest Haggerty channel.